Sarah had always admired her sister Emily's life. Emily was the kind of person who had everything organized and figured out. She was successful in her career, had a beautiful apartment in Manhattan, and was married to David, a calm and collected man who seemed like the perfect partner. Sarah had just moved back to New York after completing her graduate studies, and she was still adjusting to the city's fast-paced life. She found herself reconnecting with family and old friends, gradually rediscovering her place in the city. One evening, as she was settling into her small apartment, Sarah's phone rang. It was Emily, sounding rushed and slightly anxious. "Sarah, I know this is last minute, but can you do me a huge favor? I have to attend a last-minute work event tonight, and I don't want David to be alone. Could you head over and keep him company for a bit? He's been working so hard lately, and I just don't want him to feel abandoned." Sarah hesitated. Spending an evening with her sister's husband wasn't something she'd ever thought she'd be asked to do, but Emily's tone suggested that she really needed the favor. After a moment of thought, Sarah agreed. She gathered her things, wrapped herself in a warm coat, and headed out into the crisp New York evening. When Sarah arrived at Emily and David's apartment, she was greeted by David, who looked genuinely surprised but pleased to see her. "Emily mentioned you might come by," he said with a welcoming smile. Sarah stepped into their home, immediately struck by how comfortable and inviting the space felt. The apartment was filled with personal touches, artwork on the walls, stacks of books, and a large collection of vinyl records. She could see Emily's meticulous organization, but there were hints of David's presence everywhere, from the guitar leaning against the wall to the handwritten notes on his work desk. They began with a simple dinner that Emily had prepared before leaving. Sitting across the table from David, Sarah felt a little awkward at first, unsure of what to say. She had always seen David as her sister's husband, someone she only encountered during family gatherings. But as they started talking, she realized there was much more to him than she had thought. David shared stories about his work in publishing, his early days in the city, and how he had struggled to adjust to the New York lifestyle. Sarah found herself intrigued by his experiences, and she started to see him as more than just Emily's husband. He was a person with dreams, challenges, and a rich inner world. As they talked, they discovered a shared love for music. David had an impressive collection of records, and he pulled out a few of his favorites to show her. They spent nearly an hour listening to classic rock, discussing their favorite bands, and reminiscing about memories attached to certain songs. For Sarah, it was a nostalgic escape, reminding her of late nights in college when she would lose herself in music to de-stress. For David, it seemed like a chance to connect with someone who appreciated his interests. They bonded over their shared passion, each feeling a little more understood. At one point, David suggested they play a card game he and Emily often enjoyed. Sarah agreed, and the game became a lighthearted competition filled with laughter and friendly banter. She was surprised by David's sharp wit and sense of humor, qualities she hadn't fully noticed before. It was refreshing to see him in this relaxed, playful state. As they played, they began to share more personal stories. David talked about his childhood, his dreams of becoming a writer, and the way life had taken him down different paths. Sarah, in turn, opened up about her own uncertainties, her recent move back to the city, and her struggles with finding her footing. The evening took a deeper turn when David confided in Sarah about a challenge he was facing at work. He was working on a project that felt overwhelming, and he admitted to feeling stuck. Sarah listened intently, offering words of encouragement. She reminded him that every challenge, no matter how daunting, had a solution. Sometimes, she said, the answers only come when we're willing to take things one step at a time. David seemed grateful for her perspective, and he thanked her for being there, for listening. He admitted that he hadn't felt comfortable discussing these worries with Emily, not wanting to add to her stress. Their conversation touched Sarah deeply. She realized that she had always seen David as a stable, successful figure, someone who had it all figured out. But now, she saw a different side of him, a vulnerable, human side. She felt a newfound respect for him, not just as her sister's husband, but as a person who faced his own struggles and uncertainties. As the hours passed, Sarah found herself feeling more at ease. The initial awkwardness had disappeared, replaced by a sense of camaraderie. She realized that she and David shared more in common than she had ever imagined. They were both navigating life's complexities, searching for meaning, and striving to grow. By the time Emily returned home, Sarah and David were deep in conversation, laughing over a shared memory from a family gathering. Emily looked genuinely pleased to see them getting along so well. She thanked Sarah for spending the evening with David, expressing how much it meant to her. Sarah could tell that Emily was relieved, perhaps even touched, by the bond that had formed between her sister and her husband. In the days that followed, Sarah reflected on the evening with a sense of gratitude. She felt more connected to her family, more grounded in her relationships. She and David occasionally exchanged messages, sharing music recommendations or discussing books. Their friendship remained platonic, rooted in mutual respect and a shared appreciation for life's nuances. Sarah's evening with David became a cherished memory, a reminder of the unexpected connections that can emerge when we open ourselves to others. It deepened her understanding of family, friendship, and the power of shared experiences. And as she moved forward in her journey, she carried with her the lessons of that night, a night that had turned a simple favor into a lasting bond.